Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll Monday, November 25th. November 15th, 2021. Hope everyone survived week 10 of the NFL and anyone that had the Pittsburgh Steelers in your survivor pool. Little stinging today, as you must win. A tie, you don't move on. So that is the golden rule right there. And anyone that had Tampa as well, we'll get into that. So from Cape Cod to Cancun, from Tampa to Taipei, from Vegas to the Vatican, we got you covered from start to finish. Opening lines, overnight lines, moving, steam, false steam, you name it, we got it. So without further ado, my co-host from Tampa, the one and only Mr. Scott E. Webb. Scotty, my brother, what is happening?
Hey, Jeff, how are you this morning?
I'm okay. It's same day every day. It's Groundhog Day. Our goal, very simply, is to keep everyone off the roller coaster. We try to, peaks and valleys. I'm not saying flatline, but we don't get too excited. We don't throw ourselves or put ourselves in positions where, the epic, all in on certain games and the NFL Sunday especially is something that we are 9 out of 10 times sitting good. And, shit happens. NFL stands for any given Sunday. And, every week there's head scratchers. And again, week 10 didn't disappoint us.
Yeah, it's it was interesting, right? So it's a interesting league to have to try to make a living in and try to figure out, because tonight's a perfect example of what the hell do you do, and what your numbers tell you and what things happen, and where the betting market is doesn't match some of the stuff that's going on. And so you just have to, I figure we're going to get into this game a little bit, but yesterday on my side of things, I went 2-2 yesterday and felt like I should have been 4-0. So if anybody played what I played, I played the Patriots, and there was no issue with the Patriots. They just went out, showed what they're capable of doing, and offensively, we talked about it. They're getting better, and defensively, they've been great all season. Nobody just pays attention to them. So I thought they played pretty well. Thought they did what they were supposed to do. And then I was on Green Bay, they're 17-0. I felt like Seattle was in a bad spot there. I know they got Russell Wilson back, but I figured he was going to be rusty. And when you looked at it, he was all over the place. So it was a good news thing there. And then these are the games that really just drive you crazy, right? I was on the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm never on a -10. We already talked about that. And they go right out and score 17 points in the first quarter. They're covering the 10 points, no issues. They end up with 20 points the entire goddamn game. So I sit here and I look to myself and I go, what the hell are these guys doing? Blah, 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 blah. All they tried to do was win the game. They put everything in the back burner. They didn't try to do anything from that point forward. And that damn Carson Wentz, he can't throw the ball for shit. And what I mean by that is I think they threw the ball past 10 yards, I don't know, twice. I'm just making that up. But in terms of his overall numbers, the average attempt yards per pass was like 5, something like that. And that's terrible in the NFL. That's not where you need to be. And you can't be successful at that number. And we talked about going into that game how much the scoring machine they were. And goddamn, they scored 17 points in the first quarter. I thought they were going to easily hit 30 points for the game. And that's what we needed them to do. They needed to hit 30, and it had been no problem. But, of course, they scored 3 points the rest of the game, and they win the game 20-17 in a game that they shouldn't even have been close. So then the damn Tennessee Titans, right? The Tennessee Titans, I had those guys -2.5. I had to have 2.5. They win by 2. So what happens in that game is they get ahead, and they can't keep New Orleans out. And then this first part of the second half, the kickoff, and New Orleans fumbles the kickoff, and Tennessee goes right in and scores. Okay, great. We're going to cover this game. And they let them score at the very end of the goddamn game in a backdoor cover, and there you go. I lose that game. So I win 2 and I lose 2, but I felt like I handicapped it right. I felt like we just got the wrong end of the stick, and that's the way the NFL goes, man. And to be honest, you can do this and you can think you've done a great job handicapping these games, and you've got predictions and numbers and blah, blah, all this stuff. And then coaches do stupid ass shit, fumbles happen, or this happen, or a referee makes a bad call, or, those defensive pass interference calls can change a game. Anyway, all that being said, I could have went 0-4 yesterday, for God's sakes. And the truth of the matter is I felt like I should have been 4-0 yesterday.
Well, it's funny because we were up about a unit, less than a unit, going into yesterday. So we played our action parlay, and it's funny what you just said, because I nailed 3 games and we don't hit our parlay, and I'll tell you why. We had Packers money line. We had Vikings plus the 5 minus 140. We bought them up 1.5. And I had the Saints money line plus 135. Now I'm on the other side bitching and moaning here because you got 9 plays. The Saints picked Tannehill picked him off. And then the phantom flag comes. Okay. Then 2 plays later, another phantom flag comes. So you had 9 damn tries to get 4 yards for a touchdown. Okay. And I was steaming, fuming, you name it. And of course, the Saints come down. You knew what was going to happen. There was no question about it. Saints were going to come down, and they missed 2 extra points, by the way. Not 1, but 2 extra points. And I told you what happens to ECSI in kicking. It doesn't matter. In college, I could have a guy line up a 15-yard field goal and miss. But if I'm opposing this field goal kicker, like the Texas Tech guy on Saturday, he lines up and kicks a 62-yarder. That's how the field goal crap goes for us sometimes. But my point is, again, Saints come down, they score, and of course they don't get the 2 points. It lands on 2. So if I flipped it and I had Minnesota money line, who I really, really thought must win, sense of urgency, you play the Chargers on the road, you bet against them at home, and that's what the sharps do. And I should have went back to the well with Minnesota money line. But the point is, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. I got below written right here on our crawler. A typical Sunday in the NFL. Favorites 5-7 against the spread. Overs 5-7. Big dogs that cash, and some of these numbers obviously going to vary. The Washington football team plus 700 against your Bucks. Vikings plus 165 and Carolina plus 260. Had a house full at the watching the games last night. Knew right away that the Cardinals had no chance of winning that game. 7-0 Panthers turnover, 14. Cam scoring once, passing once. I mean, you can get away with something. Colt McCoy, no Hopkins 1 week, and then come back the next week at home and just get obliterated. And that's the NFL in a nutshell, Scotty.
Well, these guys are backup quarterbacks for a reason. And, the idea is you're supposed to come in when your quarterback gets hurt and salvage the game you're coming into. You're not supposed to be the starting quarterback the next week. And when you are the starting quarterback the next week and you're just one of those guys that just puts the things together and holds the Band-Aid, the Band-Aid comes off and the scar and the wound gets exposed. So you got to think about that when you're betting on these teams, depending upon who you have and what you're doing, because ultimately when you're playing on backup quarterbacks in the starting role, you're in trouble because they don't win, and they don't win because they're not good enough to beat starting quarterbacks, or they'd be one.
Well, I'm going to just roll right into tonight's game because, I already got a feeling what your numbers are going to say. Okay. I don't believe, I don't go into the past trends. I think San Fran's like 6-0 ATS, or maybe even 6-0 straight up against McVay and the Rams in their last six. They've had a great record their last eight against them. A San Fran team that has not won in 18 months at home. A San Fran team that got exposed again last week. I could just list. Why not to play San Fran tonight? The Rams, in comes their new shiny toy, OBJ, Von Miller. I'll tell you, they're getting 71% of the tickets, 76% of the money. Line opened at 3, moved to 3.5. Did see 4s yesterday. Woke up this morning back to 3.5. The under over opened at 47, now is 50. So quick math is 27-23, but I like to go to the opening number at 47. So they're trying to put you into that 26. That's not even right. 25, 22, some stupid number like that. My point is this. I can guarantee you this. If I'm playing this game, there's only one way I'm playing the game, and that's the 49ers. And there's no rhyme. There's no reason. There's no nothing. This stinks like a piece of fish that's been stuck under your mattress for 2 weeks. That's my initial take on this game.
Yeah, I'm looking at pregame, and pregame says 80% of the money is on the Rams. But remember, pregame has only got access to 4 or 5 books. They don't have access to everybody. So they're showing 80% of the money, and 84% of the tickets are on the Rams. So I hate betting games on those teams when everybody and their brother's on those teams, because you know what happens, and you just said it, right? I mean, the game stinks. So my numbers are kind of weird in this game. My numbers show 26-26. It doesn't predict a winner. It just does. It just says it's 26-26, and I'm like, what the hell? So then, if I magnified it out just a little bit, I use 2 other models, and one of the other models says 25-23 Rams, and the other one says 27-25 Rams. So Rams, no matter what my models say 0 margin, or they win by 2. And we're looking at 3.5. So my numbers tell me that the 49ers are the right play. And then I start looking at some of the stuff that goes in behind the scenes and some of the things that I look at. For example, one of the things that got me on New England yesterday was their ability to play offense against the Browns defense in the last 5 games, right? We talked about in the last 5 games, because I don't use necessarily, I have one set of numbers that show for the year, and then one set of numbers that show for the last 5 games. And in the last 5 games, San Francisco has been exposed, and on the numbers, they look like they've been exposed, and it shows a clear path for success for the Rams, which tells me that if I really start to look at the margin numbers, and if I'm looking at the Rams and say they're supposed to score 25 points, and then I should uptick that. So that means they should score somewhere between 27, 28, 29, 30, something like that. And the other side of it shows that the San Francisco 49ers, whose offense is 26th over the last 5 games, they're going to face the number 9 defense. So that tells me that they're not going to get to their average number. They're going to kind of tick down a little bit. So they're probably going to score 20-21. So then that tells me, okay, the Rams should cover this game. And so then I start to break it down and look at it and go, well, you just said, San Francisco hasn't won at home. Well, they haven't won at home this year. They're 0-4. And they're 1-8 at home since 2000. 1 win in 9 tries. That's not very good. And the other thing that I found that was really interesting, and this is a number that I tell you, we don't go by trends and we don't go by things, but sometimes there are certain things that do matter. And Sean McVay is a head coach, right? So that hasn't changed. He's still the head coach. He's been the head coach of the same team forever. But when he gets beat, and he gets beat on an upset loss, right? So they're the favorite, and then they get beat. That's happened 15 times in his career. And in the 15 times in his career that's happened, they are 11-4 straight up and 11-4 against the spread the next game out. So that tells me a lot about that head coach. And if I'm going to sit here and talk about that head coach, then I got to look at the other head coach and go, you got to figure shit out. And you don't even know who your goddamn quarterback's going to be, whether it's Garoppolo or Lance or whoever you're going to put out there. So I sit here and I struggle with this game. And the only way that I can really think about this number is I think 50.5 is too high. I think the under is probably the better way to go.
And we're pretty good at breaking down the layers, and so I love to go in and you kind of nailed it here. What is the key to success for San Fran to cover this game? So I'll take it down to the next layer as you were just discussing, and let me just pull it up. Team totals. Okay. San Fran opened at 27.5 under juice 220. And I'm sorry, the Rams did. And San Fran 22 and a hook. And you still got 27.5 under 111, 22.5 under, over 125. So the keys to success for San Fran are quite simple. The key numbers are 23, 24 or above. Okay. Those are the key numbers. And keeping the Rams to 27 and under. So, but even if they get to 23 and the Rams get to 27, that's going to be 4 points and you're going to lose unless your shop is showing 3.5, and which all of them are right now. So again, you could buy the hook up to 4. So 27, 23 gets you a push. I don't know. This just let me just take this one step further. See where the money line is for a second. Okay, so here we go right here, Scotty. Rams opened at 195, currently at circa minus 170. San Fran opened at plus 165, now at 150. I'll just throw this out there. San Fran either wins outright or doesn't cover. How's that sound?
Well, I mean, it makes sense. If they're gonna, a lot of times the team that covers is also the team that wins. So especially in the NFL. So I get that. The other thing that I look at here, and my thought is, how many times has San Francisco so far this year scored more than 22.5 points? So I looked it up. And the teams they scored more than 22.5 points on is the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions, and they scored 28 against the Green Bay Packers, even though they lost the game. So then I had to look at it and go, okay, they've only done it 3 times. That's not very damn often. And the truth is, how many times did they score more than 20 points? Well, those are the only times. They did one other time at 21 points against Seattle. So they're a team that doesn't score more than 20 points very often. They scored 17 against the Cardinals. They scored 18 against the Colts. They scored 10 against the Cardinals. Then they scored 17 against the Eagles. So when they play quality opponents on defense, they don't get very many damn points. So I just have a hard time believing they're going to score more than 23 points. And if they can't score more than 23 points, I don't think they can cover the game. And the reason is because I think that on the other side, you got another team that's a scoring machine. Last week they didn't play well, but they played Tennessee. They got beat. They only scored 16. The week before that, they scored 38, then 28, then 38, then 26, then 20, then 34, 27, 34. This team's only been held under that number once all season. And now we're going to say this team that San Francisco is going to hold this team under. And I get it. The history of these two teams is all San Francisco's way. And I said that yesterday when I was talking about the Colts and the damn Jacksonville Jaguars. And sure as shit, it bit me in the ass. But it wasn't anything about the handicap. I mean, the handicap was right. I mean, that team went out, scored 17 points, only scored 3 the rest of the game. So the question here is what do you believe and where do you want to go? I can't bet on a team because everything I keep looking at tells me I should bet the Rams. And I'm not going to bet the Rams because I'm not going to jump on board with 80% of the people in the United States who are wagering on this shit or whatever. I'm just not going to do that. So then the other question becomes is how do you want to bet it? Well, in my opinion, if San Francisco is going to cover this game, they're going to have to score more than 23 points. That's what's going to have to happen. And I don't see that as a road map that's going to happen that way. I just don't. I don't know how they can do that. Then I look at the other stuff that they play at home and McVay off these crazy losses and shit, and I sit here and I think, you know what? Maybe this is an under or pass kind of game, and I sit here on a Monday and go, do I really want to bet a goddamn under? I don't know. I think I'm probably just going to sit back, relax, and write my college football book.
Yeah, and something, Scott. I'm glad you said it this way because, in all honesty, I can't preach this part of it enough. Okay, people wake up this morning either in a great mood or a bad mood. And generally speaking, after an NFL Sunday, they're more often than not in a bad mood. Why? Because they lost again. They got to pay the man again. But the real public, the real degens wake up and they look at their account and it's been erased, meaning, yeah, there's a balance from last week. You're going to square up with Mickey at the barbershop on Thursday or Tony at the nightclub on Wednesday, but you got you got your credit limits back up there. So it's a new lease of life. So you look at the menu as like, okay, I know I've lost the last 3 or 4 weeks, but I got an opportunity now to start fresh. And I love the Rams tonight. Oh boy, I'm going to play the Rams team total over. I'm going to play them first quarter. I'm going to play them first half. I'm going to play them full game. And then there's a half dozen NBA games, and we got college basketball. We'll sprinkle in some NHL. And what happens is they'll play 8, 9, 10 games today. Why? Because their account's fresh. They got their credit limit back. I'm going to crush him, man. So maybe he'll call me up on Tuesday, say, hey, dude, man, you're killing it this week. Don't bother coming and paying me on Thursday. I'm just going to take it off and let you go. And that's how the mind works. If you don't have to force the action, don't force the action, period.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. And you learn that. We talked about that yesterday. We learned that with the battle scars that you have. I do have a interesting boost from the Indians down here today, and that is it's the 2 quarterbacks. So Jimmy Garoppolo and Matthew Stafford each to pass 250 passing yards. Was 150, now plus 180. And that's not necessarily a terrible number. I started looking at the numbers and what projections are and all that kind of stuff on all these different websites, and most of them are suggesting that Stafford's going to get over 250, and most of them are suggesting that Garoppolo is going to be right around 250. So I don't think that's much of a stretch. And you put 10. I don't want to say $10. I mean, you put whatever you want to on them, but if you're just putting pizza money on there, beer money, whatever, put $30 on something like that, and you can get plus 180. But every one of these boosts that these guys have run so far has been a fail. That if you bet these boosts, you lose and you lose and you lose. Although I thought this one wasn't too terrible.
And it's funny. I'm glad you brought that up because you follow the Barstools of the world, the FanDuels, the DraftKings, and the people on social media, on Twitter especially, that are affiliates are working for these guys. And when they come up with those boosts, if you just started documenting those and then just fading them, you'd be making a lot of money. It's almost like They find the spots where, hey, it looks great on paper, Jesus. And then more often than not, I don't want to say 9 out of 10, but I'll say at least 7 or 8 out of 10 do not come in. But no, like you said there, maybe Jimmy G in the running game, maybe Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, maybe it's Trey Sermon's coming out party. George Kittle's back. You got Debo Samuel, Shanahan, and the Niners are that up and go, high octane. They really like to get into rhythm. And when they're clicking, I'm telling you, they're a joy to watch. But haven't seen that. I talked earlier yesterday about those 3 and 5 teams in desperation. A couple came in, a couple didn't come in. And the 2 games that you went against that did cash, again, it looked like Seattle, because Russ was coming back, was a public trendy dog. And again, the Browns also looked like that public trendy dog. And the Seattle Green Bay game was so ugly to watch. It was brutal. But the Pats down 7-0. I'm telling you right now, they're 6-4. They play in Atlanta this week. The line opened at 4, is already up to 5.5. Their defense is playing amazing. Mac Jones, hands down, is the best quarterback today out of that draft. I'm not saying he will be the best quarterback, but he's outshining Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, whoever you want to throw out there. He is the real deal, and it looks like he's only getting better.
Yeah, well, I think that some of these quote franchise-changing quarterbacks are in bad spots. Mm-hmm. And not to say there's an advantage that Mac Jones had by going to the Patriots, because but if you put Mac Jones on the Jaguars and you put Trevor Lawrence on the Patriots, would you say Trevor Lawrence is probably the best quarterback of the group? Maybe, I don't know. I do know that he seems like I don't want to say it this way because it's going to sound bad, but Mac Jones is one of those guys that isn't the most athletic guy in the world, but neither was Tom Brady. And he's analytical, and he throws the ball where he needs to, and he's got enough arm strength to get this job done, just like Tom Brady did. And he fits the offense. And then you start to look at some of these other guys that they're running around out here, and they're playing. It's just like the Jets. The Jets with Wilson were terrible. He turned the ball over. He throws 18 interceptions and 0 touchdowns or whatever. I'm just making it up. But then you put in this guy Mike White, who's not any good either. But at least the ball's getting down the field. He's throwing it to the right player. They're moving the ball and they're scoring points. Every team's offense is going to be predicated, or should be predicated, off the power or the strengths of what the quarterback can do. And in some cases, they're just not. I felt real bad for that kid, Trevor Lawrence, yesterday, because, he's playing the Colts, and the Colts have a pretty good defense. They don't got a great defense, but they got a pretty good defense. And I'm sitting here and I'm complaining all day long about this stupid Wentz guy. And then I start to look at the other numbers on the other kid, and they're worse. And I'm going, oh my God, this is just terrible. And they don't got to, what does Jacksonville do well at? What can they do well at? And they're getting better. Don't get me wrong. They're getting better. They're getting more competitive. And I just sit here and I just think to myself, some of these kids are just going out there and just getting put in bad spots and abused, and just, oh my God, it's ugly.
Well, again, today was short, sweet, to the point. We talked about the NFL game. Tomorrow we'll get into the MAC, maybe have you take a look at the Thursday night game in advance. The Patriots traveling to Atlanta. Anyone out here that has any questions can follow myself at EC Sports Invest, can follow Scotty at Webby20 MLB on Twitter as well. Send us an email at eastcoastsportsinvestors@gmail.com. It's the start of a new week, guys. We're already halfway through November. We got 6 weeks to go till we strike 2022. Our objective has never changed. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We enjoy the day-to-day grind. We enjoy to educate, not entertain. We save that for Fox and ESPN. So we want you here for the long term. So anyone wagering tonight, always remember this: use your head, not your heart. If you do have a problem, pick up that phone. There's an 800 number there. Ask for help. Why? Because we care. So from Jeff Dawson and Scott Webb, best of luck today. Wager responsibly. It's a new day, new week, new beginning. And we will catch you tomorrow morning, bright and early as well.